let's go away from the Deborah issue. Eventually, we'll probably still revert back to it. The Nigerian political circus has actually continued to ridicule the country among the Committee of Nations in recent times. And the president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, is again allowing Nigeria to drift like a rudderless ship. And his distraction and aloofness continue to encourage officials to act with impunity. You've actually mentioned the fact that this government is actually run on impunity. Now, let's get your perspective. I know you do not like to talk about individuals or personalities. Let's look at the hordes of politicians jostling for their presidential tickets of their parties. What are your views about this?
You know, you started the question, and that was why I was jotting down furiously. I wanted to be sure to deal with it. You spoke about how Nigeria is being ridiculed in the international community. I beg to disagree. We've gone beyond the ridiculous in the international community. I imagine that by now, when the international community is looking for its punchlines in its jokes, we must be the poster boys for punchlines. Because let's face it, what is it about us that is not absurd? What is it really? Think about it. Seriously, let's think about it. We're a nation burning gas, but we do not have electricity. We produce crude. We once were the 6th largest. I don't know what we are now because they steal everything. Nobody has any data any longer. So, once upon a time, we were the 6th largest producer, but we import our fuel needs. And you think they're not seeing us as objects of ridicule already? They see how the sybaritic monkeys ruling us. They see how they steal money like mindless fools and pack it into their banks abroad, and you think they don't already ridicule us? We are already the objects of ridicule, not just in the Western world. We're a reproach even in Africa. I once used to enjoy my trips around Ghana, Gambia, where I have some friends. It used to be fun to travel around in Africa. They used to look to us with hope. These days, I stopped traveling in the West Coast since this Buhari man came. My trips to the West Coast have been few and far between because I see the sense of repulsion with which we are treated. We're already a reproach amongst nations. That's the truth. The even these fools, they don't carry our green passports outside our shores. If they are not carrying Grenadian passports, they are always this one Caribbean island passport or British passport or American passport. They don't carry it. We've become a reproach. So you are talking about ridiculing us. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, "One wo yon lawo sunkun, one wo ra lawo rerin." They are looking at us and they are crying on our behalf, and we are looking at ourselves and we are adjusting our clothes, laughing at ourselves. Our reality is that there is nothing about us that is not ridiculous or absurd. So let's leave what the international community thinks about us. Let's even focus on what we should be seeing when we look at ourselves. So speaking to the candidates, let me just say this. Personnel changes will not save Nigeria. You can change personnel all you care. If you like, in fact, the most ridiculous thing now is that they are going to bring somebody they themselves branded a failure and they are telling us that that's the new Messiah. It tells you the depth of the ridiculous that issues forth from Nigeria. It's become the theater of the absurd. So when you realize that the quality of discussion about what comes after Buhari is about whether Jonathan should be the one to follow him, it tells you instantly that we are headed for the cliff. Because number one, you do not repair a damage like Buhari. If you are saying that you are coming after Buhari to repair Nigeria, you are already a failure. Because Buhari is an irreparable disaster. You actually have to reimagine Nigeria completely. You have to look at Nigeria, recognize the fact that you are beholding a wreckage, and then reimagine it, and then sell what you have seen, your new vision for the wreckage that you have to rebuild. Sell it to the people so that you can galvanize them behind that vision to rebuild the country. I am an incurable believer in the capacities of the Nigerian people to rebuild this country and make it what it can be. But you can't do it on personnel changes. So all these people jostling to become the president of Nigeria, there are a couple of them who speak to ideas. Those ones, I'm watching, I'm listening. When the time comes, we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. But frankly speaking, no personnel change is going to save Nigeria. It's going to be a root and branch reorganization and restructuring of its entire governance systems, the way it approaches things, and it must then be anchored on law.
But isn't it contradictory, DF, that for us to attain that, I mean, these kind of changes you're talking about, this structural governance change, wouldn't a personal change come to the fore? I mean, consider the fact that regardless of your overall opinion about all of them, are you saying there is none that has the qualifications to actually bring about this kind of these structural changes you're talking about?
You misunderstand me when you phrase the argument in those terms. What I am saying is this: systems are driven by persons. I will not argue against that. But I am saying that anybody who is seeking power under this system and who is genuine about seeking change or changes, the kind of changes that are required to take Nigeria on the path of rectitude, the person has to be upfront with the people. Anyone who does not place his alternative vision of Nigeria on the ballot, but is telling you that when I get there, I will do it, is a liar. You need to place your restructuring plan on the ballot. The people need to be galvanized behind it, because without galvanizing the people behind any such plan, you cannot get this National Assembly to do anything. It will not. So you need to put your plan before the people prior to the election, making the restructuring plan part of your manifesto and making it an issue on the ballot. Let the people vote in. Because when we talk about restructuring plan, people tend to imagine that all we're dealing with is that we're talking about, okay, so we restructure our country to so many regions, allow state police. No, it can't end there. There is no restructuring that is complete without accountability. Some people have stolen Nigeria blind. There must be restitution. There must be serious truth and reconciliation. People must come clean. They must give up what they have stolen. The rule of law must be reinstituted. So it's not, that's why I'm saying that you have to reimagine Nigeria after Buhari. You cannot repair the damage. It's been damaged irreparably. As corrupt as you might believe the PDP to have been, and I believe them to have been one horribly corrupt lot, what Buhari has done is that Buhari has brought the entirety of the argument back into focus, because now we know that there are no differences in their groups. Whether they are in APC or they are in PDP, the one denominating factor is that they still equally. And now Buhari has shown us that they are one and the same. The reality is that you cannot be speaking to an anti-corruption battle any longer, because there is no, the problem of Nigeria is not corruption, it is impunity. Nothing will happen. During Jonathan, did you see money shared in the, did you see anybody fainting in the National Assembly? And yet he was the clueless one. He was the one who was said to be the most corrupt in the world. Nobody was fainting in the National Assembly in the PDP years. They were not offering mics. You didn't see persons already facing charges for corruption appointed into the federal cabinet as corrupt as the PDPs were. So what has happened under Buhari is that corruption has been revealed as not being the problem. The problem is impunity. Nothing will happen as long as you are one of us. And Oshiomhole told all of us now. He said, join us and your sins will be forgiven. So these things are clear. We are the ones who usually refuse to see it. There are no laws in Nigeria. Impunity governs Nigeria. So if we're going to be talking about candidates, it has to be candidates talking about issues. Those are the ones that can change anything. A candidate that is coming to talk to me about the economy, will make the economy better, nonsense. The economy is the way it is because of the impunity that governs Nigeria. That's why you see that labalaba that is inside the CBN calling himself a Emefiele, that will be coming out to say he wants to be president, and everybody else becomes jokes. That's why you are seeing that, because impunity governs Nigeria. So understand it for what it is. Once you understand that we are not dealing with a law and order situation, we are dealing with a situation where we're talking impunity. It's not. It operates at different levels of governance, different levels, states, local government, even your gate man. Everybody operates the level of impunity they can get away with, because Nigeria is not ruled by law.
I mean, talking about Emefiele, which is an issue, I mean, it took the impunity to another level completely.
How do you mean?
I mean, yes.
Did he kill anyone? He hasn't killed anyone. Now, some people killed people at the toll gate, nothing happened. An entire state government disobeyed the court order and kept collecting toll gate money. So what did Emefiele do? We just have this sense of selective outrage where we pick on the things to be outraged by. The reality is that Nigeria is governed by impunity, pure and simple.
But it starts from the top.
Sorry?
It starts from the top.
Where else? Who look.
So what you asserted, sir, is that Buhari has institutionalized impunity.
Buhari has revealed it. It has always been there, but it was administered by more discreet persons who cared for public opinions. Buhari simply does not care for what you think about him. So in his own case, he might not be as diplomatic with the use of impunity as the likes of Obasanjo or Goodluck Ebele himself. All of them, Nigeria cannot be governed by law. If you govern Nigeria by law, everybody who purports to rule Nigeria will be in jail. Everybody who sits in the Council of State meeting will be in jail. Some people sanctioned what happened at the toll gate. Those were murders. You don't even know how many citizens were murdered. So when we are talking about, that's not a place ruled by law.
Let me quote one of your recent statements. You said when it's time for elections, in one of your recent interviews, that when it's time for elections, the people are already disconnected from the process because of their disenfranchisement with the process. How do we get out of the wood when Nigerians themselves have been pauperized, have been disenfranchised, are disorientated with this level of impunity? How do we get out of the woods?
See, it is easier to despair in Nigeria than to hope. It is actually much easier to despair, because to continue to express faith in the Nigerian enterprise would be to truly have to exercise faith. Faith is not based on any substance. You have faith in anything simply because you believe. you almost always can never substantiate faith. And that is the situation with the Nigerian enterprise. If anything, it is easier to believe that Nigeria is either dead or dying. That is the reality of the Nigerian situation today. However, we must also know that it is not beyond our capacity. Humans have challenges. It's the normal thing in all human life, every aspect of our lives. Our national life should not be an exception where we are incapable of thinking our way through it. It is obvious that where we are, I've said it before, is not normal. Nigeria is approaching an inflection. In fact, it's already at an inflection point. And it is up to those, see, the people I really want to speak with, those who need to be hearing me, they are not going to watch these videos. It is those who might have watched these videos who can understand what is being said, who have to take on the duty of talking to the average Joe on the street. Nigeria has two choices in front of it as we approach 2023. Nigeria is going to either end up making effective use of PVC. It's not just the people themselves. INEC would have to decide, when I say INEC, the individuals at INEC would have to decide that they are going to be facilitators of democracy and not roadblocks and or impediments to the enfranchisement of Nigerians. The police, who are not immune from all of this, would also have to decide that they are going to be impartial for once in their lives, because this is a make or mar election, assuming we are able to have one. Because when we start talking about elections, that's how bleak our situations are right now. We need to help the people to connect to the issues, but we must not hesitate to point out very clearly that the key issue that has to be decided by these elections, our PVCs, is the structure of Nigeria. Is how Nigeria is going to be governed going forward. Is how Nigeria will look in the not too distant future. There is a urgent need to restructure this country. It is up to each and every one of you who watches. Speak to those that will not have the benefit of watching, or if they watch, they might not even understand my own Dogon Turenchi that I am speaking. It is up to you to understand the issues and then help the people to understand that you can't be voting for persons in this election. You have to vote for ideas. But more importantly, in the coming election, you want the people to get involved, you have to localize the elections. It can't always be about the presidency. We can't be talking about the presidency to the exclusion of the states. Who are your state governors? What are they doing for you? Are they serving you? What are they doing in the areas of education, in the areas of healthcare delivery, agriculture, infrastructure development? I live in Lagos. I intend to be involved in the coming elections. I'm not a politician, but I am going to make sure that I have a say as to who rules me going forward, assuming there will be elections. So it is our own understanding of the fact that if we ignore the process, we then enable the second one, which is why I said there are two parts in front of Nigerians. We can use our PVC and then deal with the Fulanis in our Sokoto and leave the Fulanis in Sokoto alone. That is at the level of our governorship elections, state houses of assembly, House of Reps, the Senate. Localize the elections. How have the people there, how have they served you What are your issues? What are the issues you hold there? It's not about is Lagbaja or Temedu. At that level, maybe you would have your micro zonings. It's not impossible, I don't know. But the reality is that when you're dealing with localized elections, it becomes easier to gauge the effectiveness of the person that you are being asked to vote. If you are being asked to vote a governor, somebody is coming to me to ask me to vote for Jide Sanwo-Olu, I need to be able to tell me, okay, so Jide Sanwo-Olu, what has he done? It's an objective test. It's not campaign time, but you can count on me to be upfront in campaigning against that one. So those are the kind of issues that we should be dealing with in the coming elections. But when people conveniently ignore the fact that their governors, the choices of the governors, the choices of the persons in the state houses of assembly, even their local government chairmen, that those choices matters. When they ignore it and allow themselves to be distracted into looking at Abuja, as important as Abuja is, as important as the presidency might be, the most important elections are our local elections. And nothing should tell us this more than the current exposure to Buhari. The current crop of people governing in the southern part of Nigeria, their strategic interests are not opposed to those of the world. All the people shouting Oodua nation, they will still go and vote for people who koto to the persons they are fighting. The ones shouting Biafra, they will still vote governors, and sometimes they don't need to vote the governors. The judicial appointments are also there. So you have all, but it is important that we focus on our local politics. Look at it. Before you vote, decide, have they served you well? So it is only when you localize it that you can get people to come out. But if you fail to do it with your PVC, the language of extremes, the guns, will sound, because this system is already unsustainable. We can find the courage to put the issues on the ballot. In that way, you make sure more people come out. You have, last election, you had 27 million or so voting in the presidential election, and that was at a time when the voters' roll was about 91 million. So you're talking about a situation where only a third, and that's with voters' inflation, it's not even up to a third voted. So imagine that we could double the number of voters in the coming election. Simply double the number of voters in the coming election. There is going to be a significant downstream effect when you do that. So that's what we need to be aiming for, so that we avoid legitimizing the extremes who will be looking to change this unsustainable system by force of arms.
Let me get this perspective from you. Some couple of weeks back, certain sections of the country and groups and individuals came together to have the Greater Nigerian Conference. And there was a resounding call for a southeastern presidency. We would like to get your response to this. Is it time, based on justice, fairness, and equity, for a southeastern presidency?
Let's get this clear. The only reason I am not out there campaigning to be the president of Nigeria today is because I believe that it is the turn of Ndi Igbo to be president of Nigeria. When I say I believe it is the turn of Ndi Igbo, number one, it is a painful statement for me to make, because in making that statement, I feel myself reduced to start dealing with tribes, ethnicities, ethno-religious sentiments. But I am left with no choice, because that is what Nigeria has reduced me to. In 1999, based on the grievances of the tribe from where I come, the Yorubas, Nigeria zoned the presidency to the southern part of Nigeria. I didn't read the history, I was there. I was part of the struggle for June 12th. I was still a student. And I knew I lived the history leading up to 1999. So it was a decision taken by the so-called owners of Nigeria to zone power to the south, and more specifically, they micro-zoned to the southwest. The choice of the Yorubas was definitely not Olusegun Obasanjo. We didn't want him. He lost the election in his polling booth. I doubt that he had up to 5% of the votes in his own local government. That was how much we reviled him. We knew him for what he was. We considered him a lackey of the North, and we rightly rejected him. But it didn't matter. Every other part of Nigeria voted for him, and he became the president of Nigeria in 1999. In 2007, after the failure of Obasanjo's third term agenda, power was zoned back to the north, and it went to the northwest, I believe. Yes, it went to Yaradua. The story of whether Obasanjo was aware of his e-health or not, that's another story for another day. But it went to the north because it was zoned to the north. In fact, there is a legend of how Dele was persuaded to withdraw from the primaries. So you are dealing with a situation where, as at 2007, power was ceded by zoning to the north. Unfortunately, Yaradua died when it pleased God to take him. May God rest his soul. And Jonathan happened on Nigeria. Jonathan spent a term in his own right, and then power went back to the north. And he's been in the north for the last 7 years. Now, by rotation, that power, and by equity, is due back in the south. Now, if this power now comes back to the south, there are three parts of the south. You've got the southwest, you've got the southeast, you've got the south-south. Southwest have been president for 8 years, has been VP for 7 years. South-south has been VP for 2 years, president for 6 years. Southeast, zilch, nada. So where is the equity in anyone in the south talking about power coming to them outside of the southeast? Now, let us be clear about something. This is enlightened, selfish interest. It's not coming out of a love for Indigbo alone. I love my Indigbo brethren, but this is not just out of love for Indigbo. This is about the fact that what you tolerate is what becomes a culture. Nigeria was not designed to be the behemoth that it has become today. It was willfully, unilaterally restructured into the behemoth that it has become. That behemoth is the one that is demanding rotational presidency. Because if Nigeria had been left as the regions, federating regions that were agreed at independence, there will be no presidency for anybody to be running after. The people who unilaterally restructured Nigeria into the monster that it has become today do not have the moral or equitable right to expect to be part of the discussion about the presidential election next year. If the PDP or the APC presumes to throw open its presidential ticket, it is simply because neither are interested in equity and both are feudalistic in the extreme and uninterested in justice. The justice of the situation demands that not only must power be ceded to the South, since they've turned it into a turn-by-turn, chop-by-chop enterprise, the equity demands that it goes to the Southeast. So for me, it is about the equity. I am unhappy that we have become the way we are, where the person comes from and not his competence is the primary consideration. But even if we are talking competence, Ndigbo has many people who are just as competent as any Fulani or any Yoruba or any Ijo or any Biobio. It is simply a matter of equity. Ndigbo has for too long, for way too long, it's been the laboratory for every one of Nigeria's mischiefs. If Nigeria is going to cure itself of its many injustices and mischiefs, it's a good place to start. Let them also be the president of this unjust monstrosity, and then let's together deal with the restructuring of that monstrosity. You cannot exclude them and continue to insist that they can't leave. How? How? On what basis are we talking about? In fact, look, that we are even having this discussion says a lot about Nigeria. You can't even, if chiefs can't even agree to obey the rules that they have set themselves, it's not like they would allow an Igbo man with the kind of ideas I have to come there, but at least let them find one that they can agree amongst themselves. But to be so blatant in telling a people that they do not belong in your coven of witches, but you insist that they must also not leave, doesn't stand to reason.